I'm a writer. I'm a storyteller. And I'm also a wife and a mother. When I was young, in my high school yearbook, someone decided to put under my name Kind. And I loved it. I loved it. I am kind. And as I've grown older, I've been able to parlay that into compassion. I'm also an encourager. And I think they got it right a long time ago. Everybody has a story. And sometimes God is telling you to get that thing down, make it tangible, put it in print. And what my role is with that when I'm trying to help someone is to make sure they get all the details of their story down, that they don't skip anything, that they get down what they meant to get down. And oftentimes you have something you want to share, but also you're afraid about sharing it. So I like to encourage folks to get it, just tell the full story and own the story, and because you want it to be lasting, you want it to be forever. And one of the things about printing your story or publishing your book or whatever, you're immortal. Your story will be here for the rest. As long as the world is the world, your story will still be here. And it will probably be legacy. And if God has given you a testimony or something you want to share, then He means for you to share it. And my job, my calling, I'm so thankful that I know my calling in life is to help those who would like to do that and do it with integrity. You don't want to be ashamed of what you've developed. You want to be proud of it, and that's important. I'm the founder of the Life Journeys Writers Guild. We're a nonprofit, and we have a series of writing workshops that writers or those passionate about the literary arts can take. And so the Write on Wednesdays and the Write on Saturdays, that's in that series. And that's where a small group of writers will get together. And it's intimate, and we get to share what we've come there to develop. And that's a very nice way. Oftentimes, I will have a writer participate in those anywhere from 3 to 6 hour workshops. And they'll participate in it, and they want to go further. They want to go one-on-one. That's kind of how my one-on-one consulting business started. So I will take a writer who would like to do that, and we literally sit side by side, no less than 4 hours at a time, and really, really develop their story. Literary therapy, it's formally recognized in the state of Maryland. And my new news about that is that it is formally recognized nationally. It is also a series in the what we call the Life Journeys Writing Workshop series. And that is, when you take that workshop, we're dealing with a lot of issues where we're giving you a voice, a platform to be heard. So it encourages validation. There's a space to write something and to share it out loud and to hear critiques, so you're being heard. In the material that I use, we are covering life skills, we're covering conflict resolution skills, we're learning communication, also critical thinking, critical listening, in critical speaking. We're learning all of those things. And what it does, it's also therapeutic. In literary therapy, we have borrowed from some attributes of mental health what mental health therapists and psychologists and things use, and we've incorporated that in the workshop. And so we're addressing PTSD. We're addressing self-esteem, all those kinds of things in there. It's really a mental health beneficiary. It really helps those who are struggling with those kinds of issues. We're using the written word to do it. Writing is a solitary sport. You're by yourself when you're doing it. So a lot of writers are shy. The problem with that is as the industry of publishing grows and grows, there are sharks out there taking advantage of those. Writing and developing a story is almost like giving birth for men and women. You're conjuring up something out of your soul, and this thing means something to you. Well, whenever that happens, there's a faction out there who's playing to those sensibilities. And I fell victim to those sharks myself, because I thought I knew the industry. I was already a journalist, and I was working for. I had already worked for the Washington Times, and I was a contract freelancer for the Washington Post. But I knew that I wanted to do creative writing, and the first bit of writing I did, I found an editor that whom I wanted to look at my work and all of that, and that person turned out to be unscrupulous, and it broke my heart. And she took my money. I found out that she had taken money from other writers who trusted her, and she moved out of the area. And I didn't even have her real name. So I was crushed. And what I thought was, I said it had to be a reason that happened to me. I thought that God was telling me, you're going down the wrong path. Don't write. That was my initial thought. And later I figured out he was saying, help not to let this happen to anybody else. And I'm so thankful that he straightened me out on that. And that's when I started the Life Journeys Writers Guild. And I didn't even feel validated enough to start an organization, but God said to me, well, I know you don't know everything, you'll never know everything, but when you learn something, share that. When you learn some more, share that. And just keep going, just keep it moving. And that's what the Life Journeys Writers Guild has come to be, an economic bridge of access, and with live, breathing men and women who can share their experiences. So if they go to one publisher, someone else can say, well, what do you think about that? And the response may be, oh no, don't go there because I didn't have a good experience. Oh yeah, you can try them. That was good. You'll be all right. I'm so thankful. I have 2 novels, and they are traditionally published. And what that means is that because I wanted some validation in that area. I had already been a reporter, features writer. And of course, if you're reporting, you're working for outlets and newspapers and things like that, you're paid for what you write. And I was secure in that, but I had not sold anything creatively, creative writing. And so my first goal was to see if someone would pay me for my work that way. And that's how the novels came about. So my debut novel was and is titled God in Wingtip Shoes. It's based on a real life pastor who falls off his pedestal. And the issue is, with that happening with a congregation, what are we all to do about that? And I'm just so thankful. So God had given me that story. It's based on real life. It's inspired by some real life occurrences. and I had earned a 2-book deal. So after God in Wingtip Shoes, I decided to write the sequel, the prequel, not the sequel. And the prequel is titled Jubi Stone, Saved by the Vine. And in writing that story, we meet a young woman who's in a very bad place. She's drug addicted. She's got a lover who may be slash a pimp or whatever. She's got good parents, but she's estranged from them. And we meet her around 19 years old. And being a storyteller and knowing that everybody has a backstory, I wanted to give her a backstory. What had happened to her that would lead her down that path? And I decided to give her my story. At 14, I was sexually assaulted and ashamed and afraid and didn't tell anyone. It led to some, it was just awful at that time. And I gave that story to this character. In doing so, that book turned out to be dedicated to sexual assault awareness, domestic violence awareness. I'm able to go into places and use that book to discuss those very intense issues. Also about suicide. I remember I was 14 years old. I turned 15 in the aftermath of that, and I considered suicide. And because that 15-year-old person couldn't see the future of how wonderful her life would be. And so I'm able to talk about those issues. And I'm so thankful for that. So usually when you have a story, it's not just about you. It's about what you can do with it and who you can share it with and how you can encourage and strengthen other people. Because I always tell folks, don't worry about the story that ends well. It ends well in the book, and it ended well in my life. And those 2 novels give a platform to talk about serious issues in a safe environment. And that's also what literary therapy does too. We talk about suicide prevention in literary therapy. We handle those issues. And then I have my novella, The Prison Plumb Line. That came about because my literary agent, I kept calling her when I first signed the contract, and paraphrasing, she said, she wanted to say, quit calling me. I know you have something else to do. I know you have some other writing out there. Why don't you self-publish something? And I took a short story that I had written and I drew it out into a novella. The Prison Plumb Line is based on the lives of 5 real female inmates. I do prison ministry and I do writing workshops. I conduct writing workshops behind bars. And I was inspired to write that short story about the ladies I had met. I do that with men and women, but these were ladies whom I met at a time where they were most vulnerable, when they thought they wanted to give up. And through the Bible studies and our experiences and the writing workshops and things, I saw the life come back into them, and I wrote about it. That novella has now was adapted for the stage. It's a stage play. I use it to encourage about decision making, about hope, about faith, those kinds of things, about trials, how to get over. Also, to let folks know it's easier to go to jail than you think. So it's about judgment and not placing judgment on people with when you don't know them. And the last thing with that is that it's also been optioned for a feature film. So we're hopeful. We're hopeful about that story. And it's a full circle, because if I hadn't recognized my gift to encourage and to become compassionate with other people and understanding that you shouldn't just judge, which led me into doing prison ministry and doing the writing workshops behind bars, the Prison Plumb Line would have never come about. And so that has given me life to go on and do. And I just would like to spread that to others. I'd like to be remembered for my passion for the literary arts and to share it. I'm thankful that my books make me immortal. They'll be here forever. And also the journey about sharing my story and helping others to share their stories. I always tell folks, I tell you one thing, there's one thing I won't leave here. I won't leave this earth for, and that shoulda, coulda, woulda. Because I had a passion. I finally figured out how to bring it, put it on the front burner and not leave it there on the back burner and just go on and do it, even if I didn't see the outcome. It is the journey. That's true. I've heard people say that, and it's true. And so I want to be remembered for the stories I've written, for the folks I've tried to help when they wanted to tell their stories and build their legacy, and to be an example, to truly know that it's never too late and it's never too early, and that you can operate in your passion. You can make time for it. We didn't say it was going to be easy, but it is possible. I'm a living, breathing testimony of that time was made for my passion, and I'm so thankful, and it's part of my calling. So I'm hopeful that will bring legacy behind my name, and that it'll help somebody.